billionaire pretends to sleep to test Black Maid's kid and freezes. Seeing what she does, he had everything money could buy: mansions, cars, private jets. But what he didn't have was trust. Betrayal had followed him his entire life, even inside his own home. So, one night, a billionaire devised a cruel test. He left his most valuable possessions in plain sight, then pretended to fall asleep. Watching closely, he wanted to see what the child of his Black Maid would do. What he saw next froze him to his core. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about humanity. And this moment would change his life forever. Mr. Harrison was a man everyone envied, but few truly knew. From the outside, his life looked flawless. A billionaire in his 60s, owner of global businesses, a mansion so large it felt like a palace. Yet behind the Golden Gates, he lived alone. His wife had passed away years earlier, his children rarely visited, and trust had become a stranger. Too many times people had smiled at him, only to rob him blind the moment he looked away. That's when Maria entered his life, a hard-working Black maid who carried herself with quiet dignity. She was soft-spoken, respectful, and always on time. But what caught Harrison's attention wasn't Maria herself. It was her daughter, Lila, a bright-eyed 9-year-old who often accompanied her mother after school. Lila was curious and innocent, always clutching a small notebook where she scribbled drawings and notes. She loved wandering the hallways of the mansion, marveling at its size, though she was careful never to touch anything. Harrison noticed her presence, and though he never admitted it, he felt something stir inside him whenever she smiled. Still, old wounds of betrayal whispered doubts into his mind. One evening, as Maria tucked her daughter into a guest room, Harrison formed an idea. He would test them, not through words, but through temptation. He placed his diamond-studded gold watch and a wallet full of cash on the side table in the living room. Then he reclined on the couch, closed his eyes, and pretended to sleep. Would the child give in to greed? Or would her mother's lessons guide her? Harrison intended to find out. The mansion was quiet that night, with only the distant hum of the air conditioning breaking the silence. The glow from a single lamp illuminated the table where Harrison's watch and wallet gleamed like bait in a trap. Lila stirred in her bed. She wasn't used to sleeping in such a big house. The silence felt heavy, almost intimidating. Slipping out of the room, she padded softly down the hallway, her small slippers barely making a sound on the marble floors. Her eyes landed on the table. The glimmer of gold caught her attention immediately. She gasped slightly. So shiny, so beautiful, unlike anything she had ever seen. Curiosity pulled her closer. She tiptoed toward the table, her wide eyes reflecting the sparkle of diamonds. The wallet, thick with bills, sat beside it. She reached out her tiny hand, hesitating. Harrison, lying motionless on the couch, cracked his eyelids just enough to see. His heart pounded. This was it, the moment that would reveal everything. Lila's fingers hovered above the watch. For a long moment, she just stared, her breath shallow. Then, slowly, she pulled her hand back. She bit her lip, remembering something her mother had told her countless times. What isn't yours will never bring you joy. She stepped back, glancing nervously at Harrison, who appeared to be asleep. She could have walked away right then, but instead she dug into the pocket of her small notebook. Pulling out a crayon, she scribbled quickly on a scrap of paper. Her handwriting was uneven, but her words were clear. "Thank you for letting us stay. Sleep well, Mr. Harrison." She placed the note gently beside the watch and wallet, then tucked her crayon away and tiptoed back to her room. Harrison's chest tightened. His test had ended, but not in the way he expected. His eyes lingered on the child's simple note, glowing brighter than any gold or jewel in the room. Morning came. Sunlight poured through the tall windows, casting warmth across the living room. Harrison remained seated on the couch, still holding the note between his fingers. Maria entered, startled by the sight. She turned to her daughter, her voice trembling. Lila looked down shyly and whispered that she only wanted him to feel happy when he woke up, because he always looked so sad. The billionaire's throat tightened. He had prepared himself for disappointment, for betrayal, for proof that trust was impossible. Instead, a child's innocence had disarmed him completely. He looked at Maria with eyes filled with emotion. Her daughter could have taken his watch, his wallet, worth more than most people earned in years. But she hadn't. She left a note. Maria's eyes filled with tears as she held her daughter close. She had always taught her child that they may be poor, but they were not thieves. And in that moment, Harrison realized the truth. For years, he had lived in fear of betrayal, shutting people out. But here, in the simplest act of honesty, he saw the possibility of trust again. He knelt down to Lila's level, his voice softer than it had been in decades. He told her that her honesty was richer than all his wealth combined. Then he turned to Maria, his eyes steady. From this day forward, they would no longer be just workers in his home. They would be family. The words carried a weight that changed everything. For Lila, it was kindness. For Maria, it was dignity. For Harrison, it was healing. As the three sat together for breakfast that morning, the mansion no longer felt so empty. The walls seemed warmer, the silence less heavy. And for the first time in years, the billionaire smiled. Not the polite smile of a businessman, but the genuine smile of a man who had rediscovered humanity. Because in the end, the greatest test was never about money or temptation. It was about the human heart. And the question remains, if the world tested us in the same way, what would our hearts reveal?